Alright, so on this episode we've got some shock brackets being cut out, and then we're going to mount the shocks to the axle and to the frame. We've got the center pieces to the frame that we're going to be installing just to strengthen it, and then the drive shaft will go between it. I'll show that later on. And then Dad cut out some brackets for a panhard bar bracket and custom making a panhard bar out of a couple Heim joints and some DOM tubing. So
To finish up the rear suspension on the frame this week, we wanted to put a panhard bar in here because I wanted some little limitation from the rear end sliding back and forth. So we made up some brackets to get this thing set on the frame nice and level. So we'll do something similar like this right here and try to keep these pivot points the same distance from the ground, so that when it articulates that it doesn't throw the rear end too far one way or the other. We're not real worried about it because these shocks limit the amount of travel we've got anyway. The thing only moves up and down about an inch. But this will keep it nice and tight.
and then let's see your front shock mounts that you got going on here.
Boy, those two guards have me.
I don't know. Oh, they're on the frame rail.
This week we also want to get some front shocks on here so we can finish up a lot of these brackets and things that need to be welded to the frame. So we made up some more brackets for mounting down to the axle, and we've got a couple that will come off the top of the frame here that will encase the top of the shock.
What are we cooking up over here, dude?
Throwing out some mounts for the shock.
We're about to tack weld this onto the axle and then the frame. He's got a little bit of an angle upward right now, so that when the weight of the body and gas tank will be in the back, everything comes down on it, this bar, the panhard bar, will sit nice and level. Fully custom rear tower, custom panhard bar made by Dad, and custom frame tabs. What do you think? You proud of that one?
Yeah, it came out pretty sweet, I think.
There's only one more shock tab left to make, and then that's going to be the next step. Morris's hardware shop, picking out some bolts for the top mount of the shock. building bar that comes forward on each side of the drive shaft loop, and it's just going to strengthen the frame and then give us an area for a drive shaft loop in the front and front cross member for the tranny. We're just marking it, man. Just put a mark there. It looks good, and then we'll just copy it on the other side. We don't really know. Just make it work. We're gonna start up front today and just give a rerun of kind of what we did. My dad was busy all week cutting out all these different tabs for the shocks to the frame rail and then the shocks to the axle. Those are all homemade and cut out of 3/16 steel. These shocks, we don't know if we're gonna actually use these. That's why they're compressed so much. They're not made for this application. They're just in there so that we knew where to put the brackets. Then moving towards the middle of the car, we put on the frame strengtheners, and then this it goes to the rear cross member where we've got the drive shaft loop in the back. In the future, when we get the trans in there and everything's fitted, we'll know where to put the front drive shaft loop, and that'll make this frame super stiff. And then in the back today, to finish up the rear suspension, my dad built all these brackets here for a custom panhard bar that he built out of DOM steel, and then a couple Heim joints. So nothing too crazy because, I mean, this car is really only going to be going straight and some cruises around town. Nothing crazy, not an autocross car. This is a gasser, so we weren't too worried about it shifting super hard in the back. But that's that, and we'll catch you next time.